Romania has a developing, upper-middle-income market economy, the 17th largest in the European Union by total nominal GDP and the 13th largest based on purchasing power parity. The collapse of the communist regime in 1989, reforms in the late 1990s and early 2000s and its 2007 accession to the European Union have led to an improved economic outlook. Romania has experienced growth in foreign investment with a cumulative FDI totaling more than $170 billion since 1989. Up until the late 2000s financial crisis, the Romanian economy had been referred to as a tiger, due to its high growth rate and rapid development. Until 2009, Romanian economic growth was among the fastest in Europe. The country is a regional leader in multiple fields, such as IT and motor vehicle production. Bucharest, the capital city, is one of the largest financial and industrial centers in Eastern Europe. History. Before World War II. After World War I, the application of radical agricultural reforms and the passing of a new constitution created a democratic framework and allowed for quick economic growth. With oil production of 7.2 million tons in 1937, Romania ranked second in Europe and seventh in the world. The oil extracted from Romania was essential for the German war campaigns. Before World War II, Romania was Europe's second-largest food producer. Economy during 1944 to 1989. After the Second World War, Romania became a member of the Eastern Bloc, and switched to a socialist-style command economy. During this period the country experienced rapid industrialization in an attempt to create a multilaterally developed socialist society. Economic growth was further fueled by foreign credits in the 1970s, but this eventually led to a growing foreign debt, which peaked at $11-12 billion. Romania's debt was largely paid off during the 1980s by implementing severe austerity measures which deprived Romanians of basic consumer goods. In 1989, before the Romanian Revolution, Romania had a GDP of about 800 billion lei, or $53.6 billion. Around 58% of the country's gross national income came from industry, and another 15% came from agriculture. The minimum wage was 2,000 lei, or $135. Free market transition. Privatization of industry was pursued with the 1992 transfer of 30% of the shares of some 6,000 state-owned enterprises to 5 private ownership funds, in which each adult citizen received certificates of ownership. The remaining 70% ownership of the enterprises was transferred to a state ownership fund, with a mandate to sell off its shares at the rate of at least 10% per year. The privatization law also called for direct sale of some 30 specially selected enterprises and the sale of assets of larger enterprises. As of 2008, inflation stood at 7.8%, up from 4.8% in 2007, estimated by the BNR at coming within 6% for the year 2006. Also, since 2001, the economy has grown steadily at around 6 to 8%. Therefore, the PPP per capita GDP of Romania in 2008 was estimated to be between $12,200 and $14,064. Financial and technical assistance continued to flow in from the US, European Union, other industrial nations, and international financial institutions, facilitating Romania's reintegration into the world economy. The International Monetary Fund, World Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and the U.S. Agency for International Development all had programs and resident representatives in Romania. Romania also attracted foreign direct investment, which in 2008 rose to $72 billion. Romania was the largest U.S. trading partner in Central Eastern Europe until Ceausescu's 1988 renunciation of most favored nation trading status, the latter of which resulted in high U.S. tariffs on Romanian products. Congress approved restoration of the MFN status effective 8 November 1993, as part of a new bilateral trade agreement. Tariffs on most Romanian products dropped to zero in February 1994 with the inclusion of Romania in the generalized system of preferences. Major Romanian exports to the U.S. include shoes and clothing, steel, and chemicals. Romania signed an association agreement with the EU in 1992 and a free trade agreement with the European Free Trade Association in 1993, codifying Romania's access to European markets and creating the basic framework for further economic integration. At the Helsinki summit in December 1999, the European Union invited Romania to formally begin accession negotiations. In 2002, the target date of 2007 was set for Romania, along with Bulgaria, for its accession efforts. This was confirmed in 2003 at the Thessaloniki summit, and then in early 2005 Romania and Bulgaria signed the adherence treaty to EU. They formally joined the EU on 1 January 2007. During the latter part of the Ceausescu period, Romania earned significant credits from several Arab countries, notably Iraq, for work related to the oil industry. In August 2005, Romania agreed to forgive 43% of the $1.7 billion debt owed by an Iraq still largely occupied by the military forces of the US-led coalition of the willing, making Romania the first country outside of the Paris Club of wealthy creditor nations to forgive Iraqi debts. Growth in 2007 was supported by exports to the EU, primarily to Italy and Germany, and a strong recovery of foreign and domestic investment. Domestic demand is playing an ever more important role in underpinning growth as interest rates drop and the availability of credit cards and mortgages increases. Current account deficits of around 2% of GDP are beginning to decline as demand for Romanian products in the European Union increases. Recent accession to the EU gives further impetus and direction to structural reform. In early 2004, the government passed increases in the value-added tax and tightened eligibility for social benefits with the intention to bring the public finance gap down to 4% of GDP by 2006. But more difficult pension and healthcare reforms will have to wait until after the next elections. Privatization of the state-owned bank Banca Comercială Română took place in 2005. Intensified restructuring among large enterprises, improvements in the financial sector, and effective use of available EU funds is expected to accelerate economic growth. However, the Romanian economy was affected by the financial crisis of 2007-2008 and contracted in 2009. EU membership on 1 January 2007, Romania entered the EU. This led to some immediate international trade liberalization, but there was no shock to the economy. The government is running annual surpluses of above 2%. This is to be contrasted with enormous current account deficits. Low interest rates guarantee availability of funds for investment and consumption. For example, a boom in the real estate market started around 2000 and has not subsided yet. At the same time, annual inflation in the economy is variable and during the mid-2000s has seen a low of 2.3% and high of 7.8%. Most importantly, this poses a threat to the country's accession to the Eurozone. The Romanian government initially planned for the euro to replace the leu in 2012. From a political point of view, there is a trade-off between Romania's economic growth and the stability required for early accession to the monetary union. Romania's per capita PPP GDP is still only about 40% of the EU average, while the country's nominal GDP per capita is about 25% of the EU average. In the winter of 2004, the government introduced a flat tax of 16% that was introduced on 1 January 2005. This is done in hope for higher GDP growth and greater tax collection rates. The reform, which some called a revolution in taxation, was met with mild discussions and some protests by affected working classes. Romania subsequently enjoyed the lowest fiscal burden in the European Union, until Bulgaria also switched to a flat tax of 10% in 2007. The accession of Romania and Bulgaria to the European Union has given the Union access to the Black Sea. 2009 IMF loan. At the end of March 2009, Romania signed a deal for €20 billion in loan. €12.95 billion will come from the IMF, €5 billion will come from the European Union, €1.5 billion from the World Bank and about €1 billion from other international financial institutions. The interest paid by Romania will be 3.5% per year. In return for the loan, Romania has committed to severe cuts in public spending and wages. 1 year later, the government cut civil servants' wages by 25%, while thousands of state jobs were axed and VAT was increased by 19% to 24%. The economy. In the Romanian press, the economy has been referred to as the Tiger of the East during the 2000s. Romania is a country of considerable economic potential. Over 10 million hectares of agricultural land, diverse energy sources, a substantial, if aging, manufacturing base and opportunities for expanded development in tourism on the Black Sea and in the mountains. National budget. The planned national budget for 2015 is €225 billion, with an estimated budget deficit to GDP of 1.8. Economic growth. GDP growth reached 8.3% in 2006 according to the Statistical Office of the Romania, and 8.0% in 2007. Table showing selected PPP GDPs and growth 2007 to 2018 estimations, as of April 2015. Growing middle class. Romania has growing middle and upper classes with relatively high per capita incomes. World Bank estimated that in 2002 99% of the urban and 94% of the rural population had access to electricity. In 2004, 91% of the urban and only 16% of the rural population had access to improved water supply, and 94% of the urban population had access to improved sanitation. In 2007 there were about 19.5 million mobile phone users in Romania and about 7 million internet users. The net average monthly wage was €1,617 in March 2013. The net average monthly wage was €1,192 in March 2008, rose to €1,352 in 2009 and is expected to reach €1,819 by 2013. The income from salaries in Romania had the highest growth rate in the region during 2006. The neighbors countries tend to benefit from sharing borders with developed markets, as this facilitates trade and development. Below is a table of Romania's neighboring countries, their GDP per capita, and trade values between the pairs. In 2010, as little as 10.94% of Romanian exports went to its neighbors, while 14.06% of imports came from these 5 countries. For comparison, Germany alone accounted for 16.83% of Romania's exports and 15.91% of its imports. Currency. The leu, plural, lei, ISO 4217 code RON, numeric code 946, is the currency of Romania. It is subdivided into 100 bani. On 1 July 2005, Romania underwent a currency reform, switching from the previous leu to a new leu. 1 RON is equal to 10,000 ROL. Romania joined the European Union on 1 January 2007 and initially hoped to adopt the euro in 2014. But with the deepening of the euro crisis and with its own problems, such as a low workforce productivity, postponed its adoption plans indefinitely. The fulfillment of the Maastricht criteria. Romania, as a member state of the European Union, is required to adopt the common European currency, the euro. For this reason Romania must fulfill the 7 Maastricht criteria, of which it currently meets 4. Criterion fulfilled, criterion potentially fulfilled. If the budget deficit exceeds the 3% limit, but is close to this value, then the criteria can still potentially be fulfilled if either the deficits in the previous 2 years are significantly declining towards the 3% limit, or if the excessive deficit is the result of exceptional circumstances which are temporary in nature. However, even if such special circumstances are found to exist, additional criteria must also be met to comply with the fiscal budget criterion. Additionally, if the debt-to-GDP ratio exceeds 60% but is sufficiently diminishing and approaching the reference value at a satisfactory pace, it can be deemed to be in compliance. Criterion not fulfilled. Notes: the 12 months average for the annual HICP inflation rate must be no more than 1.5% larger than the unweighted arithmetic average of the similar HICP inflation rates in the 3 EU member states with the lowest HICP inflation. If any of these 3 states have a HICP rate significantly below the similarly averaged HICP rate for the Eurozone, and if this low HICP rate has been primarily caused by exceptional circumstances, then such a state is not included in the calculation of the reference value and is replaced by the EU state with the 4th lowest HICP rate. The annual average for the yield of 10-year government bonds must be no more than 2.0% larger than the unweighted arithmetic average of the bond yields in the 3 EU member states with the lowest HICP inflation. If any of these states have bond yields which are significantly larger than the similarly average yield for the Eurozone and at the same time does not have complete funding access to financial markets, then such a state is not be included in the calculation of the reference value. The change in the annual average exchange rate against the euro. Reference values from the ECB Convergence Report of May 2012. Sweden, Ireland and Slovenia were the reference states. ABC The maximum allowed change in rate is plus or minus 2.25% for Denmark. Sweden and Slovenia were the reference states, with Ireland excluded as an outlier. Reference values from the ECB Convergence Report of June 2013. AB Sweden, Latvia and Ireland were the reference states. Reference values from the ECB Convergence Report of June 2014. AB Latvia, Portugal and Ireland were the reference states. Physical infrastructure. The volume of traffic in Romania, especially goods transportation, has increased in recent years due to its strategic location in Southeast Europe. In the past few decades, much of the freight traffic shifted from rail to road. A further strong increase of traffic is expected in the future. As of June 2015, 694 kilometers of motorways are in use, with Timișoara-Lugoj 26 kilometers also to be finished in 2015. Lugoj-Deva to be finished in 2016, while Sibiu-Pitești is still tendering. The railway network, which was significantly expanded during the communist years, is the 4th largest in Europe. Bucharest is the only city in Romania which has an underground railway system, comprising both the Bucharest Metro and the light rail system managed by Regia Autonomă de Transport București. Although construction was planned to begin in 1941, due to geopolitical factors, the Bucharest Metro was only opened in 1979. Now it is one of the most accessed systems of the Bucharest public transport network, with an average ridership of 800,000 passengers during the workweek. In total, the network is 67 kilometers long and has 49 stations. Sectors of the economy. Agriculture. Agriculture employs about 29% of the population, and contributes about 8.1% of GDP. The Baragon is characterized by large wheat farms. Dairy products, pork, poultry, and apple production are concentrated in the western region. Beef production is located in central Romania, while the production of fruits, vegetables, and wine ranges from central to southern Romania. Romania is a large producer of many agricultural products and is currently expanding its forestry and fishery industries. The implementation of the reforms in the Uruguay round of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade have resulted in reforms in the agricultural sector of the economy. Fishing. Fishing is an economic mainstay in parts of the east of Romania and along the Black Sea coast, with important fish markets in places such as Constanta, Galatia and Tolcea. Fish such as European anchovy, sprat, Pontic shad, mullet, goby, whiting, garfish, Black Sea turbot or horse mackerel are landed at ports such as Constanta. There has been a large-scale decrease in employment in the fishing industry within Romania due to the EU's common fisheries policy, which places restrictions on the total tonnage of catch that can be landed, caused by overfishing in the Black Sea. In tandem with the decline of sea fishing, commercial fish farms, especially in salmon, have increased in prominence in the rivers and lochs of the east of Romania. Inland waters are rich in fresh water fish such as salmon, trout, and in particular, carp, which traditionally has been the most popular fish, including its eggs, fresh or canned. Industry. Romania has been successful in developing its industrial sector in recent years. Industry and construction accounted for 32% of gross domestic product in 2003, a comparatively large share even without taking into account related services. The sector employed 26.4% of the workforce. Romania excels in the production of automobiles, machine tools, and chemicals. In 2013, some 410,997 automobiles were produced in Romania, up from 78,165 in 2000. In 2004, Romania enjoyed one of the largest world market share in machine tools. Romanian-based companies such as Dacia, Petre, Rompetrol, Bitdefender, Romstor and Mobexpert have expanded operations throughout the region. However, small to medium-sized manufacturing firms form the bulk of Romania's industrial sector. Romania's industrial output is expected to advance 9% in 2007, while agriculture output is projected to grow 12%. Final consumption is also expected to increase by 11% overall, individual consumption by 14.4% and collective consumption by 10.4%. Domestic demand is expected to go up 12.7%. Industrial output growth was 6.9% year-on-year in December 2009, making it the highest in the EU 27 zone, which averaged -1.9%. Services. In 2003, service sector constituted 55% of gross domestic product, and the sector employed 51.3% of the workforce. The subcomponents of services are financial, renting, and business activities, trade, hotels and restaurants, and transport, and other service activities. The service sector in Romania has expanded in recent years, employing some 47% of Romanians and accounting for slightly more than half of GDP. The largest employer is the retail sector, employing almost 12% of Romanians. The retail industry is mainly concentrated in a relatively small number of chain stores clustered together in shopping malls. In recent years, the rise of big-box stores, such as Cora and Carrefour, have led to fewer workers in this sector and a migration of retail jobs to the suburbs.